Hey everyone, thanks so much for joining us this morning. We often talk about managing our time better, but what about our minds? Joining us now to discuss some of the key takeaways from his book titled Mind Management, Not Time Management is author, speaker, and podcaster, Mr. David Kadavy, who is here with us today to spend a little bit of time and talk to us about his new book. So thank you so much, David, for joining us.
Jim, thanks so much for having me. It's an honor.
Sure. So for some of those people out there that might not be as familiar with you as we are here at the show, please tell our audience a little bit about yourself.
Well, I'm somebody who's always been really interested in creativity. And so I was a designer working in Silicon Valley, working for startups there, designing applications. And then I got an opportunity to write a book about design. And I thought that would be a pretty easy thing to do because I had been through the creative process so many times. And I found that actually, as somebody who didn't have a lot of experience as a writer at that point, I found that to be actually way harder than I had expected. And so I started to really wonder about these patterns. Why is it that sometimes I could sit down and just write an entire chapter without a problem? And why was it that sometimes I was just sitting there banging my head against the wall? And I started to notice there were certain breakthroughs in that process. And so that led me on this long, years-long journey to try to figure out how we could be creative on command and have better ideas. And I think that that's really relevant to our world today, where we are always leveraging different things. And so it's really the value of our ideas more and more that is more valuable than our ability to do things quickly or to do a lot of things in a short amount of time. And so that's what I've been interested in and obsessed with for the last decade or so.
Hence the book, right? I mean, that's, I guess, the impetus behind writing the book.
Hence the book. Yeah, that the book is the result of a long journey trying to figure out what is it that we already know about creativity and how can we leverage that so that we are having great ideas, so that, you know, as any business owner knows, when you have leverage in any situation, whether you're leveraging labor or you're leveraging capital, or today it's very easy for a lot of us to leverage media. When you get on social media,
Sure,
it is, you know, the quality of your decision gets multiplied. So if you make a poor decision, if you do poor work, that leverage is going to multiply those bad choices and that poor work. If you have great ideas, if you do good work, that leverage is going to multiply the effects of that. And so that's why I think that we're kind of entering a new age where this idea of time management, while it's a nice foundational concept, is kind of outdated. We need to be thinking more about how we can be creative and have great ideas and make good decisions and learn new skills.
I couldn't agree more. I mean, it's we hear so much about time management, but I agree with you. It's more about how to be creative and when. But can you share a few actionable tips to better manage our minds more effectively?
Yeah, I think I'll start with a thing I call the minimum creative dose. And this comes from medicine. There's this idea of the minimum effective dose. What's the minimum amount that you can take of any drug or substance that is going to create some kind of an effect? And the minimum creative dose is the same idea applied to any complex problem that you're trying to solve. Say it's in your business, or you're trying to brainstorm some sort of sales pitch, and you really need to come up with a great idea, or you're trying to think about your marketing strategy for the next quarter. These sort of creative, multivariate things, when there's not like one perfect answer to the question, you know, those are the times where we really get blocked. We try to just make the solution come to us. We want to have this amazing aha moment, and it's just not going to happen that way.
Yeah.
There happens to be some research that's, you know, over 100 years old that shows that there's 4 stages to creativity. There's the preparation, the incubation, the illumination, and the verification. And the minimum creative dose takes advantage of this oft overlooked thing, the incubation period. We have in our culture these ideas like sleep on it, that if you are having a struggle with a difficult problem, that you should just think about it, go to bed, wake up in the morning, see how you feel. Well, how often do we actually use that to our advantage?
Right.
And that's what the minimum creative dose is all about.
Mm-hmm.
If you have some sort of multivariate problem that you're trying to solve, then what is the minimum that you can do to get your gears turning about that?
Mm-hmm.
Now, that could be as simple as pulling out your phone and opening up a notes app and just writing a few bullet points about that thing. And there's mountains of research that shows that when you get yourself to think about some kind of a problem and you have a break between that and then reapproaching that problem and trying to come up with a solution again, there's more clarity, you have better ideas, but what's important is you actually have to do that initial thing of thinking about it to get your gears turning about it. And there's all sorts of things happening in our minds, whether it is that we are forgetting the bad ideas that we had, or we're getting that information about the problem to seep into our long-term memory, or we're just in the shower or doing other things and we happen to have ideas about that thing that we were just thinking about. But we have to give ourselves that minimum creative dose to make that happen. Mm-hmm. So that is, I think, the most powerful, most actionable thing, is to really just give yourself, set a timer. I've got these sand timers, 2 minutes. You could turn one of these over 2 minutes, jot down a few things, forget about it.
Yeah.
Move on with your day, set a reminder to revisit it tomorrow, and you will be amazed at how much easier every problem is to solve when you give yourself the minimum creative dose.
Isn't that funny? And I agree with you. I've used that situation before where I'm thinking about something, take out my phone, open up to the notes section, just start rattling off a bunch of notes and thought starters and such, and then come back to it later. And so glad I did that. I mean, it really starts the process.
Yeah, and we have this sort of belief in our culture that we need to always be moving. We need to always be doing something that's clearly productive in this exact moment. And the way that the mind works, the more that you're trying to be creative, the more that what is actually being productive doesn't necessarily look like you're doing anything. So think, for example, how long does it take to type a novel? How long do you think how quickly do you think you could type a novel, Jim?
Type a novel? Oh my gosh, it would take me days.
Sitting there copying it.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, days. Days is pretty good. Maybe if it was all in your head, you could do it in a day.
Yeah.
But anybody who's been in NaNoWriMo, which is where people write a novel in a month, or they've tried to read one of those novels, knows to write a good novel, it's going to take you way longer than a month.
That's right.
It's not because you're sitting there typing.
That's right. That's exactly right. What common challenges do you see with productivity?
I mean, I think that's it right there, is just feeling like you always need to be moving forward, that you always need to be doing something that isn't necessarily productive, but makes you feel like you're being productive in that moment. That's the biggest trap, I think, is that you've got to, I need to be sitting there hitting refresh on my emails, or, checking my social media, or checking my sales data, instead of actually thinking about, okay, how much time is this taking me, and what is the output that I'm getting from this? Mm-hmm. And I think that that's where, when you start to think about how your mind works and the value of ideas, you start to realize that not all hours are created equal. And that's kind of the foundation of what I'm talking about in Mind Management, Not Time Management, is that time management is this sort of relic left over from the industrial age, from scientific management, from Frederick Taylor, literally standing there with a stopwatch, watching a guy stack bricks and say, okay, that takes this much time. The way he holds the brick takes that much time. So let's make a little scaffolding for him to stand on, and all this stuff to try to break down the actions and program people like computers to perform certain actions.
Sure.
That has, that time management idea has just lived on for so long through the age of knowledge work. And then now I think that we're more in this more creative age, where you couldn't even call it knowledge work. You need to actually be thinking about what is the quality of the idea.
That's right. And now, since COVID, we've seen so many companies move to a remote work environment where people are working from home. which I will tell you that this also lends to the situation we're talking about today, where somebody might be more creative later in the afternoon or even after 5 o'clock or maybe even after dinner, versus to say, no, be creative from 9 o'clock to 5 o'clock. That's when we need you to do this. And it doesn't always work that way. I know myself, I can be most creative. Sometimes I'm the most creative when I'm away on vacation and my mind is just completely open to new ideas and a new way of thinking. But has that had an impact on the way people work in terms of the working remotely? Because I know a lot of people, they don't necessarily stop working at 5 o'clock if they're working from home. Of course, they might not start at 9 o'clock either, but they get a lot more out of their day.
Yeah. Well, a lot of people do report getting a lot more done when they have that control over their environment where they're at home. And then, some companies will even sort of make an agreement with each other that, okay, these are the days that we're going to have meetings and these are the days where we don't have meetings,
right.
or these are the days or the times when this person needs to be doing creative, some people call it deep work, where there are no distractions. Okay, that's blocked off on this person's calendar or this team's calendar, where maybe in the mornings there's not meetings until 10 a.m. or something. So that way you have that time, because you find that time is not at all created equal. It's, for me, it's the morning. For me to give up an hour of, say, writing first thing in the morning, I might as well give up an entire day.
Yeah.
Because
you're getting so much done in that hour.
Once that train leaves the station, it's gone.
Yeah. Good point. What do you want the biggest takeaway to be for the readers?
I think that the biggest takeaway for the readers is that they should not try to force those aha moments. And I think that that's what stands in the way of a lot of people reaching their potential. Is maybe they have a difficult problem or an idea that they're trying to generate, and they give it a couple seconds and they kind of go grit their teeth.
Oh yeah.
And they expect this light bulb to turn on, and the light bulb's not turning on. Just, take a moment.
Sure.
Learn about the whole situation, brainstorm about it, write things that don't make any sense but are kind of sloppy, but get your mind going. And step away from it, come back, repeat that, and you will be amazed at what you're able to accomplish. Yeah,
for sure. David Kadavy, who's a speaker and podcaster and author of the book that we've just been talking about, which is I'm gonna look at this one more time here, and we're gonna sew this in, as they say.
Sure.
So the book is titled Mind Management, Not Time Management. So thank you so much. I really appreciate it, David, for spending so much time with us today. Really appreciate all that you bring to the table for our subscribers and our viewers.
Thank you, Jim. It's been a pleasure and an honor.
Thanks.